The following is a sermon that was preached at Hope Lutheran Church in Manhattan, Kansas. For more information about our church or to watch and listen to past sermons from Hope, visit manhattanhope.com. Thank you for listening.
The Gospel according to John chapter 4. Now, Jesus had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered him, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go, call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the Spirit and in truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I, the one speaking to you, I am he." Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise be to you, O Christ. Please be seated. This account that we're looking at this morning gets at something that every single one of us does. And that's because this account forces us to recognize that we all have something that we think, if we could just get it, all of our problems would be fixed. This account gets at this universal problem we have where we tell ourselves, if I just had fill in the blank, my life would be so much better. And so the question for us to think about today is, what is that something? What is that fill in the blank for you and for me? For the woman in this account, at least on the surface, it was water. You see, the woman in this account, this unnamed woman, she was an outcast. She was from this small farming town. And while we might have in our heads this picture of quiet, tranquil, peaceful things that come to mind when you think of a farming town, it certainly can be that. But the thing about living in a small town, the thing about living in a small farming town, is that you know everybody, and that means everybody knows you. And so for this woman, everyone knew everything about her. And that means they knew about her history, her track record with men. That she had bounced around from man to man. And that she was currently living with someone who wasn't her husband. And so everybody in town knew it. They looked down on her for it. She was an outcast. So rather than face the ridicule and the judgment and the stares and the gossip and hear the whispers, this woman evidently was doing everything she could do to keep everybody else in the town at arm's length. She didn't want to go close to them. That's why when we find her in this account, we find her at the well around noon. Now to our ears, we hear, oh, she's just going to get some water in the afternoon. No big deal. But back then, you do not go out to the well at noon. Why? That's when the sun is at its highest. That's when it's the hottest point of the day. If you go to the well, if you need to get water, you do not go at noon. You go early in the morning before the sun has started to climb and it starts to get hot. If you are going to get water, you go at night as things are starting to cool down. The problem for this woman is that going in the morning, going at night, means she's going to run into other people from town. And so, here she is, at noon. You only go to the well at noon if you're desperate. And this woman is desperately trying to avoid other people. And then one day, she goes to the well at her usual time when she's so sure she's going to be alone. She shows up. And who's there? Jesus. Jesus is there. And the thing is, John tells us that Jesus had to be there that day. It was not just an accident that Jesus was there at that well on that day when that woman came to get her water. Remember how this all starts? The very first words that I read, it says, now Jesus had to go through Samaria. The thing is, he didn't. The thing is, if you were a self-respecting Jewish person, you did everything you could do to avoid Samaria. If you picture a map of the country of Israel, you have southern Israel right here, you have Samaria in the middle, and then you have Galilee up at the top. And so, if you're a Jewish person living back then, the typical thing that you do, if you're going from southern Israel to northern Israel, Samaria is there in the bottom, you do everything you can to avoid going through Samaria. Most Jewish people would go around Samaria. There was a whole host of historical reasons why that was, but they did everything they could to go around. It was common Jewish practice to avoid Samaria. And yet, what does John tell us? Jesus had to go through Samaria because he had to go and talk to this woman. He knew there was one woman who was there in Samaria who was trying to fill herself up with all of the wrong things, and he needed to show her what she really needed. And through that, Jesus shows us what we really need too. And so Jesus and this unnamed woman, they begin this conversation about water. And it gets to the point where after some back and forth, where Jesus is telling her about this special kind of water, this water she's never heard of before, that he says, if you drink this water, if you have this water, it's never going to run dry, it's never going to run out. In fact, this is going to satisfy you in a way that you might never even need any other water again. And of course, that woman wants that, right? She hears about this offer of water like that, and she says, sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. Sure, it sounded great. Drink a cup of water and you never have to drink water again. But even more than that, why did she want this water so desperately? She thought if she had water like that, water that she didn't have to keep refilling over and over again, it's one less problem she has to worry about. One less time she has to go to the well. One less time she has to go out in public and possibly face the ridicule and the judgment and the stares and the condescension. So she hears about this offer for water, living water that's going to fill up over and over again, that's going to satisfy all of her desires, all of her needs. And of course she wants it. That's why Jesus, in the context of all of this, he says, you're thinking about the wrong kind of water. He says, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. What's he getting at there? He wanted to show that woman, and he wants to show you and me, that if we're ever truly going to be satisfied, if the problems and the hardships and all of it that we face are ever actually going to be fixed, if there's ever actually going to be any resolution to the things that we encounter in this life, it's not going to be because we found the right thing. We need something more than a surface level solution that doesn't actually solve anything. The water we think is going to save us just isn't going to cut it. We need better water. We need lasting water. And so if Jesus were talking to you today, what would this water be? What water am I trying to fill myself up with, but always leaves me longing for more? What surface level solutions do we come up with to our problems that Jesus would have to point out and tell us aren't good enough? For the woman in this account, the surface level problem, it was water, right? But there was actually a problem beneath the water that Jesus had to pull out, right? For the woman in this account, it was actually this longing, this deep desire, this good longing to be loved and accepted and welcomed by other people. But that led to her chasing relationship after relationship, trying to seek what she wanted, but could never find. And so Jesus, he had to expose that. And it had to have hurt as he did it. What did he say? It says, after this conversation about water, and he tells her, go get your husband, he says, go, call your husband, come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you're now with, the man that you now have, is not your husband. Ouch, right? It's like Jesus is really twisting the knife in on this woman, isn't he? But Jesus was speaking to her that way because he needed to get down to the core. He needed to get down to the root thing that she really needed and really wanted, and show her that the way she was trying to find it wasn't working. And so he wanted to show her that he could give her, that he wanted to give her exactly what she was longing for, exactly what she needed. You see, Jesus isn't content to just fix surface level problems and give us surface level solutions. He digs. Thing is what he's going to find underneath is always going to be the same thing, a longing that only he can fill. So I ask it again. For you, what's the water? Or what's the thing just beneath the water that you've been trying to fill yourself with? What's the thing that I think is going to bring and satisfy me and give me meaning and fulfillment in life, but ultimately leaves me longing for more? To help make it a little bit more concrete as you think about this, I think a helpful exercise can be to ask yourself, what's the thing that if someone critiqued me on this, or if they came at me on this, pointed out something that I'm doing wrong in a certain area, my guard would go up? What's the thing that if someone made a judgment on, I would feel like they're judging me? Just to make it even more concrete, as a personal example, if you come to me and you talk to me, and you can ask Jeremy about this, if you come to me and you ask me if I am, and you critique my ability to be a good handyman or good with cars, something in those areas, you come to me and you critique me and you say, oh, Pastor Schmidt, you just are not a handyman. Let me take care of this. I would say, you are right. Absolutely. That doesn't bother me at all. But if you come to me and you start talking about how I spend my time, how I do my work as a pastor, how I serve as a husband or a father. If you come at me and talk to me about those things, watch out. That's when I get defensive. That's when I put my guard up. That's when I start to think, you're getting a little too close. Because those are things that I try to fill myself up with. And if you critique it, okay, then what do I have left? If I am not the perfect manager of my time, if I'm not the perfect pastor, if I'm not the perfect husband or father, what do I have left? Sometimes Jesus has to make it hurt so he can show us what we really need. So what does Jesus do? He comes to us and he just says, here's what you need. And you know what's so tricky about those things that we start to try to fill ourselves up with? They are good things. They are important things. Of course I want to manage my time well. Of course I want to be the best pastor I can be. Of course I want to be the best husband and father that I can be. Those are good things. And then they sneak up on me and I all of a sudden find myself basing my whole meaning, my whole life, my whole identity on these things. And then they come away, I slip up on them, and what am I left with? So Jesus, he's talking to this woman, and he wants to show her that what she thinks she needs isn't what she really needs. She needs something better. And the woman, she starts to see that Jesus is getting at something deeper with all of this. And so what does she say? She turns it into a spiritual conversation. Jesus never does that up until this point. She turns it to a spiritual conversation. She says, "Sir, I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." It sounds so disconnected, but it has everything to do with what she's wrestling with and struggling with. What is she getting at? It's like she's saying, I know I have deep issues, okay? I'm trying my best. And your people, they keep telling me that I have to do it this way, and I can't. She's hit the end. She's frustrated. And then she goes on, she builds on it even more. She says, I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. She wants to know more. She knows she's been filling herself up with all the wrong things. She knows she has a deeper longing and desire that's in her heart that she can't fill. Thing is, she doesn't think she can ever find it. She thinks she's too far gone. That she's never going to have those things filled. It's never going to happen for her. And how does Jesus answer her? I, the one speaking to you, I am he. What is Jesus saying there? He's saying, I am that Messiah you're talking about. More than that, Jesus is saying, I am God, the God of the Old Testament, the Lord who spoke to Moses in the wilderness, the Lord who saved his people. That's who I am. The one you've been looking for, the one your heart is longing for. It's me. I'm here. I'm right in front of you. Stop looking. I'm here to fill you up. That's what Jesus says to you and me too. Jesus knows exactly what you and I need, and so he gives it to us. He knows we need something better. He knows we need some better water to fill us up. And so that's exactly what he does. He looks at people like you and me, people who try to fill themselves up with all of these different things, so many good things most of the time, and he says, whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Jesus has given you a real solution. He's given you water that doesn't depend on what I can do or how other people view me. He's given you and me water that's always there, water that always lasts, water that gives you peace now for the life to come. Drink that water. Fill yourself up with it. Never be thirsty again. That's exactly what you need. Amen.